All right. So again, my name is Ari, and I'm the founder and the support team for Awkwardly Zen. And today I want to introduce you to my friend Charles Cox, who is going to teach us a little bit about things that we can leave behind to help us have a happier spiritual path. So thank you so much for coming, Charles.
Well, thank you for having me today. After you laid down the rules, so no politics, no medical stuff, and no shooting, this should be like a 3-minute presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm not going to talk, at least on the front end, because I'm going to talk about myself as we go through here. I'm not going to talk a lot about myself. I'll just tell you that I have done this for 40 years. I'm not really that old. This is a new Zoom filter. So this is puts the old face on you. I know, see, some people are smiling, they get that, and other people are like, oh, that's weird, yeah. Done this for 40 years. I started a Meetup 12 years ago, Denver Psychic Development Group, and we have had a tremendous amount of success, primarily because I've met a lot of people that are on the same path I'm on, and we've had a lot of fun together, a lot of laughter, some tears. It's been good. My particular bent on spiritual development and psychic development is trying to make it practical and useful. And that comes for me personally after taking years of classes where I would get something wildly esoteric that I just didn't know how to use it. So I would know something, that's cool, but then I still have to pay the rent and still have to figure out how to interact with people and put food on the table for my family. I know, see? So that's kind of my bent. So this today, the 13 things to give up for a happier spiritual path, are some things that I've distilled down and So I'm going to start some screen sharing here so you can see what I'm looking at, and we'll just kind of go from there. All right, 13 things to give up for a happier spiritual path. Who am I to teach this class? Again, my name is Charles Cox. I'm a spiritualist minister. I don't think I mentioned that. I will celebrate my 30th year as a minister this November, so just in a couple months. Yeah, not something that, it's been a very fast 30 years. For any of you that are, older than 20, the years just seem to, like you're running downhill. So I'm like, how did I get to 30 years? How did I get to 30 years as a minister? But again, a lot of fun, a lot of support from people, and learning along the way. I consider myself a lifelong learner. Ari and I were talking about this before we let folks in, about how sometimes being on a spiritual path, and this is before I even open up this topic here today, we want to get to a place where we know that we know. And the spiritual path can be a little elusive. So you'll know that you know, and it'll all become very clear to you, and then that bubble of knowledge will evaporate, and all of a sudden there is a larger universe for you to now have to navigate and learn about. We learn that larger experience, and then it evaporates, only to give way to a larger experience. So adopting the idea of being a lifelong learner is something that, if you haven't done so already, I would just throw that out for you, because you came here to have this experience, most likely not to master this experience. So, all right, so that's who I am. So I want to talk about what today is and what today isn't. Today is about recognizing easy steps to increase your happiness. Why happiness? I think that I've met a lot of folks that are on a really serious, I got to do the horn thing, serious spiritual path. I don't have any judgment about this, but that's not my path. It's one that I have trouble identifying with. And sometimes that really serious path makes you unhappy. And I'm throwing these things out here today to maybe increase some happiness, because what if you could just work on things that don't seem spiritual, that may actually bring about some greater awareness and greater experiences in your on the spiritual front. So recognizing easy steps to increase your happiness. But today isn't. Please, this is so important. And I may hit on this more than once. This is not about finding another thing that's wrong with you that needs to be fixed. Honest to God, if your focus is all about, well, this is wrong and I got to fix this, and this is wrong and I got to fix that, and this is wrong. I don't know how long you're going to live, but you're not going to live long enough. I'm just going to tell you. That's not a psychic thing. I just know you're not going to live long enough to fix all that shit. So this is the deal. This is not about finding other things wrong with you needing to be fixed. I hope that of the 13 things I talked about today, maybe you recognize or resonate with one of them, and you're like, I'm going to give that some thought. But today it's about lightening your load, letting yourself off the hook. So again, back to the really serious spiritual path. Have some fun, right? One time in a class one night, and one night in a class, I said this. I said, I think God has a sense of humor. And a woman in the class is like, do you really think so? Just all like totally like leans into me. She's really serious. Do you really think so? And I said, have you looked around the room? Now that, see, I said it and I'm glad that everyone laughed because it could have gone south on me very quickly. But I was like, of course God's got a sense of humor if you looked around the room. So for me, when spirit is around, there is joy and happiness and love in the air. It is not heavy and burdensome. What today isn't. Today is not a step-by-step guide to gaining a leg up on spirit. I want to throw this out to you. If the universe really is the source of everything, then you can't do anything to manipulate the universe. Dude, you're in that sea, you're living in that ocean, right? So today is not a step-by-step guide. So each one of these that I bring up, I'm not going to give you a step-by-step on how to conquer it. What I'm trying to do is bring stuff to the level of awareness that may be something for you to look at or not. Makes no difference. Lastly, today is another step on your journey of self-discovery. Have fun with this stuff and just have fun. Spirit's everywhere, by the way. And spiritual lessons are everywhere. Spiritual lessons do not have to be 2x4s. Spiritual lessons can just be a spiritual lesson. Nice evening out with the family. Just anything. If you're open to it. If not, then you're, okay, maybe all scary and okay. Ari covered this earlier in a different way, but I'd like to introduce you, if you're not familiar with this, to a concept called listening in the third way. There are 3 ways that you can listen to this presentation today. Number 1 is you can agree with everything I say, which is my absolute favorite. I would like to move to the lead guru in Awkwardly Zen, because Ari's we're already working on that, like the levels of gurus. We've been laughing about this, and I know she's like, no, stop it. So I would love it if you would agree with everything. You write me later and say, oh my God, all 13 things, I just blew my skirt up. You're the, okay. That's listening in the first way. The second way is you can disagree with everything. We've all done this. I've sat in a room and watched someone talk and just had a whole internal dialogue about what a dip they are. Oh my God. They have no awareness. What the hell are they talking about? Okay, so at least as far as I'm concerned today, that would be my least favorite way of interacting with you today. The third thing is, the Buddhists call this, by the way, it's called listening in the third way. I'd like anything I say today that may have interest to you, just resonate. And if you act on it, act on it. If you don't act on it, don't act on it. But just let it sit there. Let it, imagine the messages that I'm giving today are like seeds. And if one of them hits fertile ground and takes root, let it hit fertile ground and take root. So, but honestly, I'd rather you just agree with everything. It makes the whole presentation greater. Okay. Number 1, give up on the unhealthy lifestyle. So I'm going to start right in with the 13 things to give up for a happier spiritual path. Interesting to me, and I'll cover this again toward the end. Once I got the 13 pieces in place, I realized that the next 12 probably support this one. So I seem to, I'm just going to own this. I seem to find myself in unhealthy places, in relationships, in finances, in business, in just everything, in my karma, right? That I don't even want to fess up to that. And part of this raising stuff to the consciousness of like, maybe this is something for me to look at, is this idea that there are parts of my life that aren't healthy and I have to give that up. I'm not a big process guy. What's funny, if anyone has any training as a therapist or something like that, therapy and process all bring you to a point where you let stuff go. I work with a lot of people on forgiveness. The process of getting to that place of forgiveness, that's a process. But when the forgiveness happens, it's just a let go. So I'm gonna use this today. I use this intentionally, this give up. You're gonna give up on this unhealthy lifestyle, on the things that are not serving you, not moving you along. This is a stinker. Give up on the short-term mindset. Honest to God, we are masters of things that make no difference. We are focused on short-term stuff. You know, I gotta lose 2 pounds, or I gotta do this thing tomorrow. And I have no blame with this. We are in a busy world that's loud. There are, trillions of websites and radio stations and cable channels. And it's just, we are bombarded with data, with information. But what it does is it clouds our vision about long term. For those of you that are in here that are practitioners, my favorite question to work with someone with is, what do you want? And their eyes will get all fuzzy. Oh, why is this? Well, I want a burger for lunch. Okay, well, I get that. Burger sounds good. Right? What do you want? And that's because they are mired in the short-term mindset. Tell you what, you'll find a greater level of happiness when you have a higher vision. These are the things I'm trying to accomplish. Then all of the to-do stuff will fall into place. We know how to get stuff done in our lives, in our relationships, in our finances, in our profession. We know. We just get mired in the, we just get mired in the little stuff, the short-term stuff. I want to do this, then I want to do that. A teacher I studied with years ago would say to me, you have to give up on the how, right? Tell me what you want. You say, well, I want this, but I don't really know if, how that would, you got to give up on the how, right? If we really are believers in that our words have power and that we create the universe around us, then we need to speak into this energy the things that we want, which is not a burger for lunch. Number 3, I'm going to own this one, but if this resonates with anyone, let it resonate. You got to give up on playing small. We came here in this life to be teachers and be leaders and be bearers of the light. That's not just when we come together as a group like this. It's much more fun to do it when we're in a group like this, because we all know we're accepting of this. But in our families and in our work environments, you have to be the bearer of the light. Stop playing small. It's easier. It's an easier place. It's a place for us to hide. And we don't hide intentionally. We're hiding. I am terrible at this. This is closely related to the short-term mindset. I don't want to think big, because if I think big, then I have to play big, right? If I think small or just short-term, then I get to play small and I've let myself off the hook. And for me, that's not a karmic thing. I came here to live out to my potential, and I'm now not living out to my potential. It's one thing to have people in your life hold you to a higher standard, but most people won't. You have to hold yourself to a higher standard. So, number 3, give up on playing small. Number 4, this is a biggie. Give up your excuses. And the reason I put this in here, I think I was somewhere in my 30s and I was explaining to someone why I didn't have what I wanted and I wasn't headed in the direction I wanted to go. And I had this like out of body experience where I was listening to myself in the third person. And I thought, if this were someone talking to me like this, I'd call them on their bullshit. I'd be like, that's BS. But of course, it's my BS. So I'm sincere and looking you in the eye, and I get a little tear and my lip quivers, and people are like, oh, dude, that's his deal. Look at your places in life where you don't hold yourself back to the higher standard, where you're making excuses for not getting the things that you want. If you have even 2 working spiritual cells in your body, we're all about getting the things that we want, and we don't want to take advantage of anybody, right? But we're like, oh, well, I'm spiritual and I can't have these things. Listen, I was raised into this community by folks with very good intentions who said you can't ever use any of this for your own benefit. They set me on a path of reading and teaching and where I was never going to make any money. And that just at some point wasn't going to work for me. That I don't do this full time, but I have a job that keeps all of this afloat for me. I have work that keeps this afloat for me so that I can do this work. I have to be able to find a way to do this. So you come into this life, start thinking small, you start setting really short-term goals. And then when you don't even hit the short-term goals, we make up excuses for why we don't. And at the end of the day, we've not let anyone down but ourselves. This spiritual path, for so many, myself included, can really be it can be a solitary journey. We're working on our own stuff, and we're growing in our own ways. And even for those of you that are in relationships or married, you can go to a partner and say, oh, I had this big breakthrough. And sometimes they'll just give you a blank look. And I'm talking about the most loving, connected person in your life doesn't get what's going on with you. This makes this journey really solitary sometimes. It's not a bad thing. I just recognize that it is what it is. So that also feeds into the excuses. We it's not that big of a deal. It's not a big deal, but now I've let myself down. Not let anyone else down, let myself down. So give up your excuses. Give up on the fixed mindset. I've had a real breakthrough of awareness, I think really in the last kind of 10 years. A lot of the folks that I read for are stuck. And they're stuck that they have to do this or do that. And this is not a psychic thing. I'll just ask him, really? That's all that's on the menu? And again, I'll get a glaze. They're looking at me, what? We see the world. I mentioned this earlier. These bubbles of awareness that give away to larger bubbles of awareness, give way to larger bubbles of awareness. Allow yourself to move past the fixed mindset. This is the universe we live in. Once you learn something, you turn around and you start teaching other people. And if you're a good teacher, you'll attract someone into your space who will say to you, well, why is that? And you'll totally run for the exit doors, or you'll point at them and call them names, or you'll throw them out of your class. Zoom is great because now we don't have to exit people out of the room. All I have to do is just like click, oh heck, John, what happened to John? Yeah, see. So it's Not saying that I've done that. Okay, but the fixed mind, that's what the fixed mindset is. When we started on this path, wherever you started on this path, there was only one thing that you knew, and then that grew, and then that grew, and then that grew. What happens is people get stuck in the fixed mindset. These are the only options on the menu. You don't have to be psychic or particularly even aware. I think it's just person to person. You say, really? Those are the only options? We don't ever ask ourselves that. And I'm telling you, if I had a mirror here, well, I don't have to have a mirror because I have a computer and I see myself pointing at myself, right? I'm pointing at myself. Listen, part of doing this today, one of the reasons I love doing this kind of work is I want you to know that I have not arrived. I'm not even close to arriving. I'm not even sure actually that I'm on the train that's on its way toward arrival. So I get stuck in this stuff. I will say out loud, oh, it's either this or that. And I'll laugh because I'm like, what the hell? I teach classes and help people move past these barriers. And they're like, that works really well. There I am. Okay. So give up on the fixed mindset. Let yourself explore what's beyond the walls of what you know. Because what's beyond the walls of what you know is something bigger and greater. And then what's beyond those walls is something even bigger, even greater. And you are a part of all. So give up on the fixed mindset. Give up believing in the magic bullet. So this, for me as a spiritual teacher, this is the next shiny thing complex. So I meet people that they take a class with the guy who comes through town, and they're like, this is the next thing beyond Reiki. So they're going to be the next, they're going to master the next thing beyond Reiki. I don't know what that is. But then someone will come a month from now and they have the next thing beyond the next thing beyond Reiki. And so they completely throw away the next thing beyond Reiki so they can move on to the next thing beyond Reiki. And that's the magic bullet thing. I'll tell you where this shows up in our culture, just in our culture. So I've struggled with my weight off and on in my life, and probably for a 20-year period, there was not a diet ad that did not catch my eye, right? You take this pill, you're going to look like you did when you were 14. And I'm like, wow, dude, I would settle for 20, right? So middle of the night, me and my American Express and an 800 number, right? Then I get a pack of vitamins that says if I exercise, I don't know if anyone's ever gotten these, right? They're just vitamins that you exercise, add physical activity into your life and take this pill, you'll lose weight. I'm like, really? I just paid $100 for that. This is the magic bullet. You can take this pill and lose weight. I laugh at there's a number of Pantene commercials. Those women, I know what that commercial's doing. That commercial is telling particularly women, if you use our product, your hair is going to look like this. I guarantee you those women don't use Pantene, and they just have genetically have beautiful hair. If you have thin or short hair or something, you're not going to look like that. But you see that commercial, and you're like, I'm going to wash my hair once and come out looking like a supermodel. Dude, what happened? We do this in our spiritual lives, right? I'm going to start doing these things. I'm going to meditate. Then we don't meditate, right? And then we're back to, well, these are my only things. And if I don't meditate, then I'm backing up on this. Then I'm backing into excuses. Well, I didn't get to meditate because, I'm a really busy person. I can't find like 3 minutes a day to connect with spirit. I mean, come on, Harry, 3 minutes. I know, see, telling you. We're like, well, not everybody has the option to meditate. Backing into playing small. Okay. Give up believing in the magic bullet. Give up on believing that there is something. This is my thing about what this class isn't. There's nothing in this. What the magic bullet does is it feeds the awareness that there's something wrong with you that needs to be fixed. We come into this life, this is not about perfection. And I'm just going to say that as a blanket. I don't know any of you. I know some of you personally, but I don't know all of you. But none of us came into this life to perfect this. We came here to have this experience. I came here to have my experience. Aries having her experiences. Marilyn's having her experiences. Julie's having her experiences. These are what we came here for. So there's no magic bullet. And for any of you that have turned your life around for whatever reason, there is no magic bullet. There is hard work. There is a making a decision to dream a bigger dream and make better plans to move in that direction. This causes happiness in your life because now you feel like you have some control over something. And when you are happy and content, the spiritual stuff really begins to fall into place. You're not mired down in the little stuff. So give up on believing in the magic bullet. I'm just going to let this sit here for a second. Because I have not met a whole bunch of people in my life who don't struggle with this. It's gotta be perfect. I have a friend, I love her. She's like my sister. I've known her forever. But I can't go out to dinner with her because she's never happy with the first table. I don't like this table. We have never gone to dinner together where we have actually sat at the first table that they've taken us to. Well, this isn't the right table. Dude, I'm here for a burger. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty happy with the table. I'd eat a burger on a TV tray at home. So take me to a table in a restaurant. I'm happy. Perfectionism. This is particularly toxic in our spiritual lives. We want to do it right, and we want to do it right all the time, and we want to do it right from the beginning. I'm telling you, you give up perfectionism, you give yourself the opportunity to trip and fall, to make mistakes, to say the wrong thing and do the wrong thing, because that's what your experience, that's what you're here to experience in this life. Because why? Because you'll learn from it. And then the next time you make a better choice. Making better choices make me a happier person. Spiritual stuff, right? You get caught up a lot in karmic stuff. Well, this is just my karma. Back to an excuse. This is my karma, right? So then you try to act outside the karma, and bus rolls over you, and there you are, one arm ripped off, you're laying under a bus, and you're like, well, this didn't work out. No. So many things in my life, I don't know if this is true for anyone here, so many things in my life were a catastrophe in the moment that actually had seeds of good that came out of it. But that's a place to get to, recognizing that lets the perfectionism go. Things have not gone well. No, I'm just gonna tell you this, no surprise. I haven't always said the right things. I haven't always taken the right actions. Those people in the room who are students of mine, you get this. Here's one of my personality faults. I'll just tell you. I think I'm funny. Sometimes I am funny. Sometimes I'm not funny. But here's the personality fault. If I say something that I think is funny and no one laughs, I'll double down on it. Right? So then unfunny is double unfunny. And I can't help myself. It's a knee-jerk thing for me. So I've had to let the perfectionism go. As a minister, all the years of counseling I've done with folks and readings, my lesson, and I'll tell you what my lesson is. My lesson is that the people are on their own path, and I had to let that go. I became a minister thinking I was going to change the world. I was a young man. We all were young at one time. You get older, you get a little more mature, you understand that people are on their own path. I had to let up the perfectionism, give up the perfectionism stuff in that. In my classes, in my readings, in my counseling, I am giving people due diligence. I'm giving them the best understanding that I have in this moment, and that's all that I can be expected to do. If not, none of us could ever open our mouths again. If you're holding yourself in the line that everything has to be perfect, spirit stuff has to be perfect, relationships have to be perfect, karma has to be perfect, right? One of my beliefs, I believe that this life is given to us as a gift, and that at the end of our lives, there's no angry father figure who says, "Oh, Kat, you could have done so much better." Point the finger, right? You had so much potential, and what happened, right? That's our psychology about perfection. When we get to the end of this life was a gift. Have you ever given a kid a gift that ended up smashed and thrown out? Can't really cry over that. It's a gift. You gave it to them, right? This life is a gift. At the end of this life, you made better choices because you wanted to, not because you're trying to please an unseen God, not because you're trying to, whatever it is, great white buffalo woman, if you're trying to please Jesus. At the end of this life is done. And that to me takes away all the perfectionist stuff. Helps me to kind of ground that out so that I'm back to making decisions that I want to make, that I think in the moment are the best. I'm gonna let this one sit here. Give up on multitasking. No one's good at this, right? So I'm gonna sound sexist here for a second. Guys think they're better at this than they are, right? Guys, oh, I can do this. No, you can't. Women pretend that they're not multitasking, but they are, and they're not good at it either, right? There's something about in your life, start it, work on it, complete it, done. And this goes back to the whole top thing, right? This is really unhealthy. Because what happens in the multitasking universe is that we keep adding stuff to our plate. And I like the metaphor of the plate because honest to God, you can get so much on a plate that you just start pushing stuff off the back. I have in my life had things fall out of my consciousness that I was supposed to be doing because I added more things. And then I'm embarrassed because someone says, well, did you get this down? And I'm like, deer in the headlights. Look, not only did I not do it, I forgot to do it. I forgot that I said I would do it. So give up on multitasking. Give yourself the ability to start something, work on it, get it done, move on to the next thing. I think one of the reasons this makes us happier is we feel accomplished. When you're stuck in the multitasking universe, nothing gets done. This is the short-term mindset thing where we just get stuck in, right? I have 100 things to get done. I get the list down to 80, and then it's back up to 95, and it's down to 75. Nothing ever gets done, or very few things get done. And it makes me unhappy. And when I'm unhappy, I don't feel connected. When I'm unhappy, I don't feel loving toward other people. When I'm unhappy, I don't feel like my guides are helping me along or whatever. I'm mad that my guides aren't working on this stuff for me. Now, if I ran the universe, that's what spirit guides would do. They'd be like secretaries. They'd be like, go get this done for me. Then you could fire them. No, that doesn't work for me. You've not been a good guide. Gone with you. You could place ads. I need a new spirit guide. That would be fun just to place that ad just to see what kind of people you got who would apply for that job. I'm looking for a spirit guide. What does that entail? Okay. I'm not going to be a good boss because I'm not going to be able to do good direction. Okay. So give up on multitasking. This is another way that you can bring a little more happiness in your life and allow yourself to feel more connected with people, places, and things. Number 9, give up your need to control it. I'm just going to let this sit here for a second. What's funny is we think we control stuff. This is the part of being on I think, a healthy spiritual path, having healthy emotional boundaries and spiritual boundaries is, first of all, recognizing your own psychology stuff and recognizing that, if you have control issues, I think you have to recognize that. You may not be able to let it go like that, but you need to recognize there are just times with things that are not under your control, and you can fight against it, or you can just recognize that that's the dealio. And that's a tough place to be. Back to a solitary path, right? There's nothing worse than having someone in your life yell at you. You can't control everything, because on the inside you're thinking, yeah, I can. Yeah, but you can't. I'm going to pause here just for a second, because I kind of stumbled across something that underlies all of this. Being on the spiritual path is about having the reason happiness is important. Being on a spiritual path is about having good mental health. It's about taking care of this, right? This is my instrument that interacts with this whole plane of existence. And when I have crazy expectations, when I get stuck in my own stuff and don't know that I'm stuck in my own stuff, I am the source of my own unhappiness. And I'll tell you something, that is it's a truth for me. And if you hear this and you think that this is maybe shtick for my stand-up routine, then I'm okay with that. But I'm going to share something with you that's real for me. I am afraid that I'm going to die and figure out that I was the problem. That is a life wasted for me. So a lot of my stuff has been trying to get me out of the way. When I get me out of the way, somehow I'm happier. When my me comes storming in and tries to control everything, and take on the world, and everything has to be perfect, it just doesn't work. I'm not happy. And then I become disconnected. And when I'm disconnected, then that's when I feel disconnected. Let me get back. When I feel disconnected, then I'm disconnected from spirit. I can't see the path of what's going on around me. A lot of folks that come to me for readings, my take on this, they have lost the narrative in their life. They have wandered outside the storyline, and they don't know what happened to the storyline. I have been there. That's when, and I can't imagine that each one of you hasn't been. That's when you throw your hands in the air, and you're like, what the hell? I've now wandered outside the storyline. Finding a way to be happier, finding a way to have good mental health keeps me better connected to my storyline. This is so big. Number 10 is big. Give up saying yes to things that don't support your goals. We're back to playing small. We're back to multitasking. Okay, well, I can work most of the time on my stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to go do this thing and help these people. And oftentimes, I'm talking about my own experience. Oftentimes, I'm saying yes to things, and I'm using the word things in there, but I'm saying yes to people who are not supporting my goals. I'm saying yes to things and people who are not supporting me. And I'm not about walking people out of my life, but I only have so much time. And there's a book I read probably 5 years ago called, boy, this is what happens when I wander off script. The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. Now, this book is written for people that are like 35 years younger than I am, but I really got something out of it. And just right in the first chapter, the author says, this book is not about not giving a crap about stuff. It's about prioritizing what you give a crap about. And that really got me right, just hit me right between the eyes, because then I can make better judgment. So after I read the book, I read all of his arguments, all of his thoughts on this. I thought, you know what it is? It's my family, it's my business, it's my friends. And then whatever comes forth is a circle that is way out there. These are the things, these are my priorities, these are my time priorities, these are my energy priorities. 1, 2, 3. It's my family, it's my business, it's my friends. So saying yes to things that don't support your goals. Look at the places where you are giving up energy. We're all energy workers, right? And back to the Reiki thing. We all get the Reiki energy thing, right? But we're transmitters of energy. And when and I don't think this is a shock to say this, there are folks that are in orbit around us who would like more of that energy and don't want to give anything back. I don't have any judgment about that other than I just get to choose. I want to choose. I think that if I could travel in time back to the 20-year-old version of me, I would tell him, you can choose. No one ever told me that growing up, right? And a lot of our spiritual dogma in this community is, I don't get a choice, right? I made all these decisions were made for me before I came into this life. I'm going to hate, people are going to love me, and the horrible experiences and the fun experiences. I would differ with that. I would go back and tell the 20-year-old me, you can choose. Stop letting these stupid people around you make choices for you. You're giving away all your power. You're just giving it away. People would come up to me with wheelbarrows, and I'd just be like, oh, here. I'm exhausted. This also comes from a place of having no naturally empathic, empathetic, right? So, and I didn't have very good boundaries. So I would always draw people to me who would basically just suck the energy out of me. And I never said no. I'm like, okay, you say you're my friend, and I'm exhausted now because you sucked everything out of me. But give up saying yes to things that don't support your goals. It's a biggie. This is the corollary to number 10. Give up the toxic people. And there are different schools of thought on this, and I want to share mine. There are folks who believe you just got to walk them to the exit door. And there are a couple of people in my life that I've had to walk to the exit door. I love you. I think you have a beautiful soul. I'd rather poke my eyes out and talk to you again. Not off a body part. For the most part, the toxic people in my life want interaction. They want to interact with me. And if I don't interact with them on a toxic level, because that's the vibration they're giving out, they're going to go find other toxic people. And not that I want to get into the what's wrong with me stuff, but when I will have more than a couple of those people in orbit around me, I wonder to myself, what energy am I sending out? Because somehow they're being drawn to me. When I get my head clear and I'm like, I don't have time for this. Because the toxic people are all of the things above, right? They don't have any belief in you. You're playing small, and they think in you're playing small that you're playing too big. But not, if you don't have enough excuses, they're going to give you even more excuses, right? They're the first ones to say, well, you can't do that. You can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? And I don't know why it took me into my 50s to recognize that language in the people around me. Why am I going to people? Why am I looking to people for love and support who their first thing is, you can't do that. You are not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not tall enough or thin enough or rich enough. You're not educated enough. You're not spiritual enough. You're not masculine enough. You're not feminine enough. You're not balanced enough. It's nuts. And if you give that an ear, you get drawn into it. They will outline the 10 things before this, and you'll buy into it. They walk by, and what's funny is what their win in this is they get to be right. They want to be right because they're unhappy, because they're living an unhappy lifestyle, an unhealthy lifestyle. They are queens and kings of short-term mindsets. They are living little. They're living little. I thought one time I wanted to write a book, but I can't write this book because I'm afraid people would take it seriously. So the name of the book is Living Little: How to Aim Low, Achieve Less, and Live a Life of Mediocrity. But I'm afraid that people would embrace that book. Like, this CEO, it's about living small. It is not about living small. You didn't come here to live small. And no, we don't have enough voices around us that tell us that. You are good enough. You're smart enough. You're educated enough. You're spiritual enough. Balanced enough, right? These things bring you happiness. And when these are the messages that you have in your head, then you are happier. Because the other messages are bringing you down. And when you're not good enough, not smart enough, you're not spiritual enough, you can't hear spirit. You don't see signs around you. You don't get guidance. You can't even hear, my experience, when I'm in that place, I can't even hear the kindness of the people that are around me. So give up on the toxic people. Let them find some other place to be toxic. I'm not about walking people to the exit door, right? I just don't have time for them. I would rather spend my time with the people who love and support me than the people who don't. Family, business, friends, and way down the line. Fourth. I don't even know what the fourth is. This is huge as well. Give up your need to be liked. Before we started the session today, Ari and I were talking about teachers, and I have had some really powerful teachers in my life. And a good teacher is someone who, in a lot of ways, doesn't want to be liked because they'll challenge you. And so in this world we live in where, you're either with me or against me, that's where we're at. There is no conversation. And a good teacher, and it doesn't have to be a good spiritual teacher, but a good spiritual teacher is going to say, well, why do you believe that? How does that work for you? I've often thought if I went back and got another degree, I wouldn't study what I did before. I would probably get a degree in like religious anthropology. And I'll tell you why. I personally am fascinated why people believe what they believe. I'm less interested in what they believe. I'm interested in the why they believe what they believe. Because oftentimes we hold beliefs that don't serve us, don't move us along the path, don't grow us, don't grow our family, don't grow our community, they don't do nothing. And yet we hold on to them, right? Then we say nice things in a public setting because we want to be liked. And if somebody says something challenging, or they say something, I'm going to say the word challenging. They say something challenging, right? We oftentimes don't say anything because we want to be liked. We don't want to cause waves, right? Here's my advice: cause waves, right? I don't want to make trouble. Here's my advice: make trouble, right? Particularly in this environment. If we're all teachers, if we're all growing and teachers on whatever we're teaching, whatever level we're teaching, right? If we're all teachers, then we have to help people up to the next step. The teacher I talked about earlier that was so profound in my life used to say, the only thing you can expect to do is to hold the door for the person behind you. I love that because that's all you can do. So part of what I'm doing today is I'm holding the door for the people behind me. I'm not pulling you through. I'm not shaming you through. I don't have a cohort behind you that's kicking you in the ass to get you through the door. I'm just holding the door. Here's an opportunity for you. So But to do that, sometimes you have to give up the need to be liked. I have to give up my need to be liked. And that is in conflict oftentimes with who I am. I'm a nice, funny, outgoing Midwest guy, right? I want us just all to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, but that doesn't work like that all the time. And as a teacher, sometimes I have to push people um, out of their comfort zone to learn something in the very same way. So I'm paying this forward in the very same way that I've had other teachers that have pushed me out of the comfort zone. They gave up their need to be liked so that they could teach me something or open a door for me to see something new. Okay. This is my favorite. Number 13 is a big part of the unhealthy lifestyle. Number 13 is a mental health thing. Purveyors of gloom and doom have been around from the beginning of time. And all of us, my grandma, my grandparents, my parents, people are like, I wish there were a friendly newspaper. We just talked about how Mrs. Simpson's cat was rescued out of the tree, and how these kids spent the whole afternoon and did nothing wrong because they're just good kids. That news doesn't sell. Both social media and television news, they're telling us all the horrible stuff because somehow we're drawn to it. We're just drawn to it. And it does not bring us happiness. Find a way, if not, well, it says give up your dependency on it. So I'm all about the dependency thing. I don't know if you want to go through life and not know what's going on, but you have to find some way to be informed without carrying that, without packing up all that unhappiness. The world is filled with unhappiness. The real difference is for us that are my age and around my age and younger, the real difference is that my parents and my grandparents just were unaware of all the crap going on in the world because of number 13. There was no social media and TV news, not the way there is today. My example of this in the 80s, when they started putting kids' faces on milk cartons, this is little Sarah and she disappeared down by the Mega Mart. Kids didn't start disappearing in the 80s, right? People like, in the 80s when kids have disappeared forever. It was just in the 80s, all of a sudden we had an awareness of poor little Sarah, a picture of her with her little doll, and she went down to the Mega Mart. Now we don't know where she's at. It doesn't bring me any happiness. And I'm sorry for Sarah and her little doll and her family. But try to find a way to give up your dependency on social media, television news as a way to bring you greater happiness. In this circles of awareness that I've kind of danced around today, these are also my circles of influence. There are things that go on in the world that I didn't start. I can't control. I don't have any influence over. And so I can be aware of them without dedicating my life to this thing that will eat me alive. And I have friends who, as I'm sure we all do, who are eaten alive by bad news. These people are purveyors of doom and gloom. And they're in our community, by the way, too. World's going to end next month. A big asteroid coming in. That actually would be the best thing because, the impact of the asteroid, just FYI, the impact of the asteroid, the immediate change in the air pressure would not only blow out our ears, but would destroy our brains. So there wouldn't even really be any awareness. Then all of a sudden you'd be like out of your body, floating above a rocky field, because now it wouldn't really be the Earth anymore. But that's another deal. But it's an awareness of the purveyors of doom and gloom, the dependency on social media and television news to bring yourself happiness. So are there comments or questions that want to be addressed? I know that Ari is taking care of this.
Please Please hold. I got to get everything resituated. Let me change my view so I can see everybody here. I'm going to have you not share the screen. They can remember comments and questions. I have faith in them. All right. We did have a couple things that came through behind the scenes. One was, what has been the most important lesson for you on your path? If you had to pick one thing that is like, that's it, walk away with this. You just gave us 13, but what is the one that you would focus on the most?
I think that the important thing would be that I have the ability to choose. And I'll just expand on that real quickly. Folks come through and in my office, in my classes, and they're like, I came here to do this, and Spirit told me I have to do this. But my suspicion is that we came into this plane for much bigger lessons that have a smaller feel to them. And you come into this plane where from the beginning you're told what to do and how to do it, and we have this culture of perfectionism. We want to be perfect. You can go to YouTube and learn anything, get a certificate in an afternoon, right? You can become a Reiki master Friday and Saturday night online class, right? Just there it is. I think it's that I choose. I'm choosing to be happy. Let me. Some question caught me off guard. That happiness is a choice. That happiness is a choice, and that I choose the things in my life. I choose the things and the people that bring me happiness, and that's under my control. And to me, that would be my takeaway. If Dorothy drops a house on me on the way home today, that's my takeaway.
Dorothy dropping the house on people is coming up over and over and over and over again this week. So I'm real curious to know what that's about. All right. So thank you for that. And I'm right there with you. So just a personal question on that. You have all of these big visions and all of that. And I think a lot of times with comparison, a lot of people will go and beat themselves up because they're not there yet. So did it take you a long time to get to this spot, or were you just there one day?
Well, I just arrived. I have brought myself down here today just to talk to all the little people, right? No, you have to work your way. You have to work your way through this stuff, right? I think you have to work your way through the well-meaning people. I'm not talking about the dumbasses who are intentionally unfriendly. You have to work your way through the people who I think love me and are being done with me, right? Who, because they love me, want me to be really aware that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm not educated enough, I'm not spiritual enough, I'm not masculine enough, I'm not feminine enough, I'm not balanced enough, right? They think they're helping me. And when you get to a place of where you recognize this for what it is, then you can process that message. You can process that message in a way that's useful. Because when you're a kid, and someone says this to me, well, maybe that's true. But an awareness that I've had just in the last, I think, spending last year being able to sit around and think for a year, had good sides and bad sides. I think it's probably true for all of us. But one of the things that I've done in my life is that I've spent way too much time with people that did not support my path. Now, everyone could probably, agree to that and resonate with that on some level. But my real awareness was that time is finite. So all of the time that I spent with people who were not loving and supporting with me, I was not spending time with the people who did love me. I was not spending time with the people who supported me, who wanted to date me or marry me, or I wasn't spending time with any of them because I was spending too much time with the people that I wanted to like me, who were never going to like me, who were giving me dumbass advice. And I just ate it up because, see, the reason that works is because you have to have that belief. I have to be a willing participant. This comes back to the choose thing. I have to be a willing participant. I believe I'm not tall enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm masculine enough. I'm not feminine enough. I'm not balanced enough. I'm not educated enough. I'm not spiritual enough. Right. So that when you say that to me and we both shake our heads, it's a hypnotic thing. Right. You understand what I'm saying, Charles? Yes, I do. Yes. Right. You, at some point, you have to get out of your own, you have to break your own hypnosis and be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? Or you just smile at them and you know, one of the things, all the classes, so the meetup group that I have, we've done 900 classes. And in teaching a lot of classes over these years, what I've come to, I have kind of a filter that I installed. And so if somebody says something off color or off putting to me, I think to myself, do they just have bad people skills, right? Or are they being ugly? And probably 90% of the time, they just got bad people skills. I recognize that because I've gone through life saying stuff that I thought was funny or cute or, you know, that in fact wasn't funny or cute. Sometimes I meant it hurtful and sometimes I was just trying to be funny and it came off hurtful. So that filter has to be in place, but we're back to the choose thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The choice. And I resonate completely hardcore with the allowing myself to be around people who were not serving the greater good of me or anything in the world for a long time, because I just put in the chat, we're raised to be loyal to others, not to ourselves. And so I love that. I love what you're saying about that, because that's been a huge part of the transition here. Greg, it looks like you have a question.
Charles, I'll start out by saying that I'm in that number one category with you. You know, I agreed with everything you said. So hopefully that makes you happy. Okay. All right, there we go.
Hey!
But, and actually, I try to do a lot of those things that you covered, but the one that I'm still trying to kind of understand, analyze, and actually look at a practical way to implement it in my life, which is going small. You know, don't always go small. Go, you know, and how do you apply that? Because to me, it's almost like I would build like categories to say, okay, health, family, you know, certain things that I want to achieve in life. You know, I'd almost have to like read this every day, you know, when I'm making some big decision or when I'm making a decision and deciding that, hey, am I underselling this to myself, or should I really go for something bigger? You know, so when I mean, it seems important, but how do you do it?
It's funny. In a way, I think you just answered part of that. So if this process became part of your decision-making process, this would add a whole nother aspect to what it is that you're trying to create or directions you're trying to go, right? If you just thought about it, am I underselling this? Am I living little, right? Years ago, I got probably 30 plus years ago, I got this idea for I got a business opportunity. So I'm all about action. So I went and found a business analyst and someone who's a specialist in this field, and I paid her consultation fee. And so I'm laying out my stuff on the table. I don't mean physically, but I'm laying out all my ideas on the table and everything. And I said in passing, because I don't think this is a big deal, I said, I get it that in the first year, I'm not going to make any money. And I just went on with the whole thing. And she like pumped the brake. She's like, what the hell is wrong with you? She goes, people who begin a business saying out loud, I know that I'm not going to make any money, they usually end up losing their shorts. She said, how about we come up with a business plan that way overshoots where you think you're going to be? So when you fall short, we're still on the profit side. Now, this is a duh when I say this out loud, but that blew my skirt up, right? That is a moment in my life where the universe came into focus for me about intent. My intent is I'm going to throw all my money into this business with no focus on making a profit. Let me tell you about how the world works. They'll just suck every dime off you. So part of, to your thing, well, how do you do this? I think incorporating, the things in this presentation that resonate with you, places where you're like, maybe this is something I need to think about when I'm developing plan, family plan, business plan, and I think it could just change everything.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. It sounds like Miss L, you have a question, and I'm not sure I'm understanding it. So are you in a spot where you can unmute?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the things that he was saying, I guess, kind of resonated with me when he was saying, like people always compare themselves and say, am I, I don't think I'm tall enough. I don't think I'm, everything, basically, like how many times do people actually say, am I poor enough? Instead of, am I rich enough? Am I worthy enough? And all that kind of stuff. Just kind of, that just hit my head and just kind of pinged. That's all.
All right.
It's a comparison thing. For me, like everything, I think it's something that you have to learn how to do. It's helpful, I guess, on some level to, I don't even know if it's comparison. I see now I'm catching myself. I don't know if comparisons are very helpful at all, but we do it, and it's part of our psychology, right? I know that coming from a family with sisters and stuff like that, that women are always like, how thin she is or how pretty she is or whatever. And what they're really saying is that she's prettier than I am. She's thinner than I am, right? And, guys have different criteria, but they do the same thing, right? So the car they drive, the woman that's on their arm or whatever. And so somehow we find personal worth or lack thereof in that comparison. And one of my, again, ahas is getting older. I love getting older, other than the getting older part, but I love getting older. You see someone who's a nice looking woman or a nice looking guy, and that doesn't mean they're a nice person or a good person. And I've met my fair share, seriously, my fair share of people who are, wow, knockouts, male and female, who are just absolute not nice people. Yeah, I'm trying to find the right words. I'm like, hey, I'm a big broadcaster. I need to be careful.
I think we all know what you meant.
I know. Just the pause itself is like, oh, we know.
We've met them too. I think also just on that with the horror thing, there is a mentality in spirituality, especially among practitioners, that you can't charge for your services, or that it's not right to do that. Or you hear all the time in that where people say, give up all your worldly possessions. What are your thoughts on that, Charles?
I'm not giving up my worldly possessions.
Me neither.
It's funny. This is just our own life experiences and things like that. But I had a family member who had some mental health issues. There were drug and alcohol issues, and he ended up living on the street for a while. I got to see that. I got a front row seat to that. There's nothing romantic to that, right? He was a mess, and this isn't about him, but I'm like, the idea that that I can give everything up and the universe will just provide. The funny thing is the universe just provides anyway. And what that particular thought process does is it feeds another magic bullet thing, right? If I just give this stuff up, then the universe will fill in with all the other things. But the universe is trying to teach me lessons. So if I throw the lesson book over the side of the boat, then magically somebody hands me a new lesson book. Not a better lesson book. Like, hey, I read this book. So no, I'm not. It's a place you got to get to. What's funny is that in particularly as practitioners, that money is a reflection of our value. And that can be, if you're putting it out there and nobody will even pay you $10 for a reading, then I see how that can be internalized into, no one will even pay me $10 for a reading. From a business point of view, then I would say you need to look at how you're selling the reading. Because if you can't get $10 or $20 for someone for a reading, then somehow you're selling your services, you're selling them wrong. And in my life, I can't tell you how many products I've seen. There were good products that went away because they weren't packaged right? Or you weren't really sure what it was until it was, you couldn't find it anymore. And that's true with us. So I like the business thing. For me, being on the spiritual path is about really 1 foot on the physical path and 1 foot on the spiritual path, because I am both. And whenever I've tried to give up the spiritual stuff, that didn't work. And I've tried to give up the physical stuff, the physical world a couple times. That doesn't work either. I think I need to have a foot on both paths. That's my sweet spot, so that it becomes practical. So this is a real thing. It's not up here. We live up in our heads. And again, let me just call. I don't know who's pointing. I think that's okay. I live in my head a lot. So I have to stay grounded in this. If not, then the whole spiritual thing and the whole physical world I live in become somewhere between my ears. And then people aren't sure I don't know what's up with me. And frankly, I don't know what's up with me at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. JP, you had a question?
Yeah, I had a question. Charles, thanks again. Something you said resonated about just not saying yes to people that don't serve us. So my question is, and I kind of put this in the chat while you're talking, but my question is basically, when I meet new people and vibrationally they don't feel right, but otherwise they're really nice people, they want to be my friend or lover or whatever, and they, there's nothing bad for me to say about them. They didn't do anything, but vibrationally they just don't feel good. What's the best way to firmly say no while being polite, right? Because I can't say no because you're mean to me. I could say no because we're not a vibrational match. They understand.
That's exactly. Yeah, I like the oh hell no. Oh hell no. You want to be friends? Oh hell no.
Yeah.
Just as and I'm kidding. I hope you know that. What's funny is that we're on a spiritual path and we are honoring our intuition. And oftentimes particularly in friendship and romantic relationships, we will completely turn our back on that, right? I cannot tell you how many people I've read for, women particularly, who are like, I had this really bad feeling, but I just thought he'd work out. You married him, right? Well, I only broke one arm. No, see, it makes me crazy. And again, makes me crazy because it reflects something in my life. Because I don't do that, right? If you want to, I would encourage you to honor your feelings, right? And sometimes if we're talking about boundaries, right? And we're all adults here, I hope. We're all adults here. You meet someone and you're like, this could be a fun lover. That may be all they are. And I'm okay with that, right? People don't have to be, in my life, I have people who play different roles, right? So we're back to the magic bullet thing. I need this one person who's going to fulfill me sexually and fulfill me emotionally and fulfill me spiritually. I don't know personally anyone that has that, but it's a romantic thing. We're like, oh, I hope that's the deal. 30 years ago, went out on first dates where I'm getting grilled about how I feel about children, right? What's your future business opportunities? Can I see a stock portfolio? Dude, I thought we were having ribs. I don't, and I'm a guy. So you got to be honest. We're on a first date and stock portfolio and my future business stuff is not what really is foremost in my mind right now. Just saying. So I think you honor that and don't push it away. Sometimes people have to show you. I've met nice people who there's something weird there. I don't know what it is. And I don't want to know because I'm not reading them or touching in with them, but I keep this awareness that there's something here. They can't help themselves. People are storylines. They're storylines. They are metaphysical storylines. So they can't help but show you what their storyline is. So even though they seem nice, they look you right in the eye, and they smile at you, if they're a dick, that will come to light. If not tonight, it'll come to light tomorrow. And then you can just kind of float. I'm all about floating away. We're all busy people, right? And you find the people in your life who love you and support you, and you spend time with them. And when that energy grows in your life, then other people will join that because it's an appealing energy. That help?
Like attracts like.
Thank you.
It does.
Yeah.
That's taking responsibility, though. That's back to the taking the responsibility thing, right? You don't want to, and I don't want that to be a wrong thing. I don't want that to be a way to condemn myself or that there's something wrong. But to me, it's putting my finger up in the wind. If all of a sudden I have this stuff going on around me, it takes two to tango. Somehow I've been drawn to me, and they've been drawn to me, and I've been drawn to them somehow, to these situations.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a hard pill to swallow sometimes when you have to realize that you have a part in everything.
Well, I don't, but I understand how the rest of you do. I see that.
Right. I mean, you walk on water. We just forgot that.
That's right.
Okay, so I just want to say, for those of you who maybe have not looked at the chat, I've put Charles' contact information over in the chat a couple times. The link to his Meetup group. There's also a link to this list. So if you didn't take notes, you can go grab it off of his website. And his website is denver-psychic.com. Charles, why don't you mentioned a couple times that you do readings? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what kind of readings that you do? So if anyone's interested in working with you, they can get a hold of you.
Got it. I'm a spiritualist minister, so I see dead people everywhere. That's pretty much what I do. I've done this. I first read for money when I was 19, and I'm 29 now, so that was 10 years ago. See, I love that. You're all like, yeah, that's great. That'll be 40. That's 40 years ago, and I have an office in Lakewood. I also do readings by phone. Reuniting people with loved ones who have passed, getting messages through. I'm less of a psychic if you want to know, lotto numbers or the guy you met at the bar last Friday, is he the one? I'm probably not that guy for you. But that's what I do. I also teach these classes. I do one-on-one psychic development work with folks. And that's very specialized. People will come forward and they want to learn something specifically. Maybe they're getting close to launching their own practice and they want to work on something specific. And then I have some people that are like, they think they work better in a one-on-one environment than they would in an online environment or a group environment, a live group environment. So that's who I am. That's what I do. I mentioned earlier I was a minister, but I'm a spiritualist minister. So the whole spiritualist religion is all about, the belief that when the physical body ends, that the soul survives, the consciousness survives, and not only survives, but they want to communicate. They want to participate in the world they just left.
I am hoping that you might come back and teach us a class on spiritualism, because I know there's right. We have brought Charles into the fold. So just so you know, get used to seeing this face, because we're looking at doing some partnership things together, and we just enjoy the energy so much here with AZ. And he got thrown to the wolves in an in-person event recently, so and just did great. So I will say thank you so much to Charles on that. Again, it is, let me make sure I don't say it wrong, denver-psychic.com is where you can find him, and then his Meetup group is Denver Psychic, right? What's yes. The actual group called?
It's Denver Psychic Development Group.
Okay. Got real creative with that name. This is how I love you.
Searchable. This is the world we live in. I need something searchable. Right? I don't want something really esoteric. Because there are Meetup groups that come up. I'm like, I don't know what they do.
It's true, like awkwardlyzen.com. So if you go to awkwardlyzen.com and you check us out, we have an online community where you can get together. And if you are ready to step away from some of the noisy online community, ours is a lot softer and a lot quieter, and it's focused wholly on spiritual things. So come join us there. It's completely free. We also have AZ Media, which is our podcast network. So you can come check that out there. We've got 2 different podcasts that are going. They just dropped new podcasts this last week. So check that out. You can also check out our partners page, and our meetup groups. So our meetup groups, we have 11 locations right now. We're about to add our 12th and 13th. So watch for that. And we have people all over. And it's been so much fun to spend time with you today, Charles, and with all of our familiar faces and our new faces. We're glad to see you. And we have lots of fun things coming up on Awkwardly Zen. I'm not going to go through all of them. You can go look at it. You're all very, very practical people. All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Charles, if you'd stick on for a minute. The rest of you have a fabulous rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next time. Bye.